my talk. Here we go. How he said he living life as a gringo, where you question where you fit in every time you mingle. They say you do this with not enough that. My rapping is really bad. This life as a gringo.
Yes, hello and welcome to another episode of Life as a Gringo. I am Dramos, of course, and it is Thursday, so it means time for our Thursday Trends episode. Flying solo today. Just 'cause I'm flying solo today. That's what we're doing. And let's just kind of get into it, man. You know, let's just dive into these trending stories. You know, we'll kind of cut out the I don't know. Do you guys like when I catch you up on what's also going on in my life as we start the pod, if you will? I feel like I spilled my heart. If you haven't checked out Tuesday's episode, I just want to throw this out there. If you are somebody who comes here for the trends, I ask you to stay for the, I don't have a cool name for the Tuesday one, but I don't know, Tuesday was a very therapeutic episode for moi. Just kind of getting clarity on what's important in my life. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely check that out. Check out my wellness brand, Just Be, as well. Let's do some house cleaning here because I feel like I haven't done a great job. I am the world's worst promoter of things that I'm working on because I always feel terrible, like feeling like I'm selling people on things. You know, like I want us to have a genuine relationship and connection here, and this to just be a very honest and pure place. But I, you know, as a result, kind of sell myself short with a lot of things that I'm passionate about that I'm working on. If you haven't checked out Just Be, at justbe.nyc on Instagram and all that, justbe.nyc is also the website. It's my wellness brand. We got the Just Be Social Club, which is our like mastermind that we're now building out into like a full-fledged community, which we're beginning to open the doors on this new evolution of it. So yeah, you want to be a part of it, DM me at DJ Dramos and we'll get you the info, or email Brenda at mindofyounglord.com. Link is in the show notes for that. I don't know, man. I just think like, you know, I think a legacy in life's work, I really just see that being something bigger. And the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. A lot of people who have kind of been a part of our other groups and things like that. And not to toot my own horn or anything, but yeah, we get, you know, we've had some really good feedback, some people really doing some amazing things. Obviously not like all because of what we're doing, but just being able to have those conversations, I guess, with other people has brought a lot of clarity for many people. So that is something I'm very proud of. So just throwing that out there. Just Be Social Club, going to be a part of it. Now with that said, let's get to these Thursday trends, these stories. Today we're going to be talking about DACA recipients now being eligible for some health care. We'll get into that. We're also going to be talking about what's going on with gas companies, and California is actually a state trying to hold them accountable for potential price gouging. So we'll talk a bit about that. Let's talk about millennials not having children and what that could mean for the U.S. economy moving forward a bit. We'll talk about that. And on the positive side of things, let's get into the age-old topic of the No Sabo Kids and this movement that's happening online of people releasing the shame around not speaking Spanish fluently and your Latinness being brought into question. You know, all the good stuff that this podcast is based upon. We'll get into that for our Mi Gente segment. But first, man, let's dive into the nonsense, into the BS in a segment we call For the People in the Back.
Say it louder for the people in the back. Say it louder for the people in the back.
All right, so let's start here with DACA, right? And anybody not familiar, DACA is short for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It basically was a policy for migrants who were brought here as children. They are able to basically get like work permits, and they're safe from deportation. They have to essentially renew every 2 years or something like that. And that's the DACA policy, right? And now, under our current president, Joe Biden, DACA recipients will be eligible for federal health care coverage. So this is Over 100,000 young immigrants without health insurance will now be able to buy affordable health care through the plan, the administration estimates. They're saying more than 100,000 young immigrants protected by the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program will soon become eligible to receive federal health care coverage for the first time since DACA was implemented over a decade ago. The Biden administration will announce a new federal rule Friday allowing DACA recipients to enroll in a qualified health plan through the Affordable Care Act, insurance marketplace, or become eligible for coverage through a basic health program. They're saying that an estimated 580,000 young adults who lack legal immigration status, have lived in the U.S. since they were children, are currently working or studying without fear of deportation under DACA. An overwhelming majority of DACA recipients were born in Mexico and other Latin American countries. Even though the program has helped them access better paying jobs and educational opportunities since it first was implemented in 2012, DACA beneficiaries have been barred from accessing federally funded health insurance despite contributing billions in federal taxes, pouring funds into the nation's federal health insurance system for years. While many DACA recipients get health insurance through their jobs, more than a quarter are estimated to be currently uninsured. By implementing a federal rule expanding the definition of lawful presence, quote unquote, to include DACA recipients, they are no longer excluded from receiving coverage from a high quality health plan and financial assistance as well. Now, this is according to Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra. This is what they told reporters this last week. So good news right there. And listen, it's an election season, baby, right? And obviously, the DACA recipients are not citizens, so they're ineligible to vote for the presidency. But I think as a Latino, as a human being who cares about the quality of life of others, you take note of things like this, right? Of things that the Biden administration is doing. And obviously, this doesn't correct all that we've seen or all of the critique that many of us, myself included, have. But again, in this landscape where, I don't know, man, it feels like the good just doesn't travel as quickly or as popularly as the negative shit in the news cycle, right? So when Biden does something good, it's kind of like a blip on the radar. When he is slacking in some sort of way, it is, people going crazy on social media and the news in general, right? And I think it's important to acknowledge the progress that is slowly being made as well. Because to be fair, they are paying, as it says here, in their jobs that they have here that they're legally working, they're paying taxes just like you and I. And they're paying into things that they don't have access to, which is unfair at the end of the day, right? And I think the sort of narrative around immigration and migrants have sort of allowed us to sort of poison the view of everybody overall. But, DACA recipients are like the ideal sort of immigrants you want coming into this country, and of course there are people up in arms about this. But again, they're doing everything right, everything lawfully. They should be rewarded in that way with the benefits that come along with doing things the quote unquote right way. Now, moving on to something else that is frustrating and one of the main sort of critiques of our country, our politicians, obviously the president in general, is going to get blowback with these types of things. Gas prices, right? A lot of people are pissed off about gas prices, and rightfully so. And I've talked about this on the show a bunch of times of like, who are we, really trying to blame? Like, who are we actually focusing our energy in the right places? Because these companies are gouging customers, right? There's no way you can tell me that they're not. So it's up to our politicians to try and do something about it. And in California, you actually have this narrative, this conversation, a real conversation being had. So you had a hearing that was amongst California lawmakers in the state Senate. And it's an oversight hearing on the state's new law that attempts to hold oil companies accountable for spiking gas prices. Now, the hearing comes as the California Energy Commission moves forward with its work in determining if it should set a cap on oil refiner profits and establish a penalty for companies when they make too much money off of California drivers. Now, obviously, I don't live in California, but things like this could begin to set a precedent for those around the country. Also, friends of mine who live in LA are always talking about the fucking gas prices out there. So obviously it is, some sort of an issue here, right? Now, they say that the companies are making too much money off of California drivers, obviously. The law was at the center of a special session Governor Gavin Newsom called last year in response to high gas prices. You have Siva Gunda, who's the vice president of the commission, telling the Senate's Energy and Utilities Committee that so far, the evidence of price, there's not any clear evidence of price gouging found, but noted that companies are profiting off of the price spikes. Listen, I am the product of a New Jersey public school system, so I am maybe not the sharpest knife in the drawer here, but no evidence of price gouging, but noted the companies are profiting off of the price spikes. Are they? I'm assuming if they're making a distinction, they're profiting. We're not just saying they're profiting as normal. We're saying that they are profiting above average with the price spikes. To me, wouldn't that appear to be probably price gouging if they're profiting more? Again, New Jersey public school system. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm reading it the wrong way that they intended, but that's what it sounds like to me. And they say that California has had 3 significant gas price spikes in the last 5 years, right? Now, oil industry leaders warned lawmakers that the action could drive refiners out of the state and further limit the state's oil supply. And if you want to know everything that is fucking wrong with our society, specifically this topic of conversation, our country as a whole, that's the sentence right there. Oil industry leaders, right? The top of the top in their industry, the fucking wealthiest of the wealthiest, the most successful in the oil industry in this in this country, are warning lawmakers that if they penalize them for price gouging their customers unnecessarily, this could drive them out of the state of California. So them being held accountable for taking advantage of customers will cause them to leave the state as payback, basically, right? Because it's not enough that they're already a healthy, profiting business. No. They also want to be able to gouge customers as they see fit. And they are putting that out there publicly. We're willing to leave the entire fucking state, pick up our entire operation and move on if you decide to hold us accountable for price gouging. Again, these aren't like your local pizzerias that are fucking, operating on razor thin margins here. These are incredibly successful companies, incredibly successful executives working at said companies, shareholders, all that shit. They are fucking printing money, and they are threatening payback, retaliation, just for being held accountable because they are taking advantage of the everyday person, which is fucking crazy to me. And as we're talking, I'm gonna look this up. Big four fuel companies, right? Let's see what the big four are. So it's Exxon, Shell, and Total Energies and BP, right? I'm just gonna look this up right now. Let's just say, all right, revenue. ExxonMobil, $286 billion. Let's see, Shell, $273 billion. Total Energies, $185 billion. BP, $164 billion in revenue. Let's look up how much money does Exxon CEO salary. Let's just, for the sake of it, okay. Let's see. ExxonMobil handed this is in 2023. ExxonMobil handed its chief executive a 52% pay increase to $35.9 million for 2022 after the oil company recorded its highest profits amid Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. Oh boy. Folks, the president is not the enemy here. It's not inflation. I mean, listen, inflation's a thing. But in this case, Exxon gave their CEO a 52% pay increase to $35.9 million after the company reported its highest profits ever in 2022. Now, let's look up gas price surge 2022. Let's see. Okay. Rising crude oil prices and increased gasoline demand in early 2022 contributed to rising U.S. retail gas prices in the summer. Okay. Why were gas prices so high in 2022? This is an article from 2024. Gas prices over the last 12 months were well above the 6-year national average, hitting $4.99 a gallon in the week of June 16th, 2022. A week in which Californians paid a whopping $6.43 per gallon. I don't know why I read it like that because I'm used to reading the millions of these CEOs, I think. Californians paid a whopping $6.43 per gallon of gasoline. 2022. In 2022, ExxonMobil's chief executive had a 52% pay increase to $35.9 million. 2022. Share awards, so the shares they hold, surged by 80% in 2022, while Californians were paying $6 a gallon for gas. There's your problem, folks. I hate to break it to you. It's not Joe Biden gouging you out of your fucking gas prices. It is greedy corporate executives. In a summer where 2022, the gas prices surged above a 6-year average where Californians were paying almost $6.50 per gallon. The ExxonMobil chief executive in that same year received a 52% pay increase to $35.9 million after the company reported its highest ever profits. You're getting price gouged, right? You're having trouble filling up your tank to go to work because this guy is getting a 52% pay increase. And they're reporting record profits off of your struggle. That's your fucking enemy right there. I don't care what side of the aisle you fall on. Corporate America gouging the shit out of you at every turn just so they can fucking line their pockets, their already wealthy pockets, so that they can make a $35.9 million a year salary. That right there is the issue. Wake up. Stop getting fooled by the polarization that's happening on social media. This party's doing this party's doing that. You're all having the veil pulled in front of you. Corporate greed is why we are fucking getting gouged every time we leave the house. That's why. And now that the government, like in California, is trying to do something, they're trying to create laws that will penalize oil companies for price gouging. Now, the oil companies are saying, instead of being normal, just rational, like moral human beings saying, you know what? We made our extra money. They're right. We can't keep taking advantage of the everyday person. No, instead of that, they're threatening, we will just leave the state of California completely if you have the nerve to penalize us for price gouging your customers, your constituents. Because we need to keep giving our CEOs 52% pay increases and report these record fucking numbers. We enjoy that so much, we don't care if it comes at the expense of the everyday person not being able to put gas in their car to get to fucking work. And how dare you, as lawmakers, try and hold us accountable for our greed. And if you try to hold us accountable for our excessive greed, we are just going to punish you and punish the people of your state by just picking up and leaving because, God forbid, I can't buy one more fucking yacht. That's where we are. That's the logic. Wake up. This is your enemy. It's not red, it's not blue, it's fucking green. It's corporate greed at the end of the day. Wake up. Now's a good time to take a break. Now is a great time to take a break. We're going to take a break. I'm going to have some water. And we'll have more We'll be right back. All right, we are back, and I mean, this kind of piggybacks off of that last story I was just going in on. Millennials, my generation. I believe a millennial is, let's look this up, because I was having an argument with somebody the other day who was trying to claim that they were a millennial, and I had to check them. I was like, you don't even go here. If you were born between 1981 and 1996, you are a millennial, okay? So millennials are having fewer kids than previous generations, and they're saying that it could be a drag on the economy for the next decade. So millennials aren't having as many kids as previous generations, and that fact could end up dragging down economic growth for more than a decade. And I just want to pause for 1 second, because I want to reference the gas thing, because I know The Guardian was the publication that reported on the ExxonMobil CEO. I'm going to actually put that in the show notes if you want to read that full article. I'm going to put that in the show notes. Back to this. Millennials, right? Millennials not having as many kids, and they're saying it could end up dragging down the economic growth for more than a decade. Now, that may not phase some of the child-free millennials, and this is all I believe this is it, let me just look up the website. I want to make sure I'm giving you the real deal here. Okay, so this is Business Insiders where I'm getting this article from. And I was like inspired by a conversation I saw on Bill Maher. We'll dive into that. But Business Insider, they're saying this may not phase some child-free millennials who are using the money that would be spent on childcare to splurge on lavish vacations, flashy boats, and other luxuries popular among dinks. This is a thing now. Couples who live on double income with no kids. All right, they have an acronym for everything. But that kind of spending won't be enough to offset the drag of shrinking population on the economy over the long run, especially considering that the U.S. birth rate has collapsed over the last half century. And this is economists telling the Business Insider publication. They're saying that in 2022, we've been speaking about 2022 a lot, there were just 11.1 births per every 1,000 people, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. That's a 53% plunge. Shut the fuck up, 53. So in 2022, while there was a 53% plunge in birth rates, there was a 52% rise in the salary of Exxon's CEO. Huh. I don't know why numbers, it's just correlating here. Anyway, I'm like saying like just discovered something profound. Nothing, it just happenstance. But anyway, that's crazy. They're saying like in 1960, right? Because I think, is that the boomer generation who's always like very outspoken, thinking that it's still 1960? They are saying that in 1960, it was 23.7 births for every 1,000 people. So you're talking about more than double that, right? And they're saying that this puts the U.S. at risk for seeing, quote, extremely low population levels over the long run, not unlike what countries like China, where the population decline is so dire that the government is giving out cash to convince people to have more kids. It's so bad in China, they're paying you to bone your partner, basically, to raw dog your partner, if you will. Sorry for being crass. I hope the kids aren't in the car. We're all adults here. Anyway, the shrinking birth rate in the U.S. could drag down the GDP by 1 to 2 percentage points each year, according to Todd Bush. I was already looking at the last name and trying to sound this out. Bushholtz, a former White House economist. Why am I having trouble saying the word economist? That coffee be hitting right now. I just want to throw that there. It's the coffee, and I'm so ramped up on the fucking like ExxonMobil, the gasoline conversation as well right now. I'm like tearing through my notes on this. Economist. I could say the word. I could say it separately. Anyway, over several decades, that's the equivalent of slashing the U.S. growth rate by a third. So this could slash our growth rate by a third, wiping out the estimated productivity increases stemming from artificial intelligence, they're saying. So even AI can't make up for our lack of boning. Okay, and they're saying in the worst case scenario, GDP growth could nosedive 3 to 4 percentage points. And they're saying that fewer Americans being born means fewer workers in the economy. Shocker. I love how they like, and I'm not calling out Business Insider, but I just love how in general people are like, what's going on with millennials? It's because they're on their iPads and iPhones all the time, on the TikToks. It's like, no. You old greedy bastards have created a world that is so fucking toxic to live in. We are questioning our natural impulse to reproduce. You've created a world where the quality of life is so poor, be it economically, be it morality-wise, that people are seriously saying, do I really want to bring a kid into this world? And that's not even me just like, standing on my fucking high horse and being Mr. Morality. These are legitimate conversations that I hear amongst my single or soon, not married yet or just married friends who are millennials. A genuine question of, with all the shit going on in this world and how fucking increasingly difficult it is to just exist, do I really want to bring a child into all of that? That's a very real question, a very real thing that we all have to consider. My age group, Or on the flip side of it, because I'm in my 30s, I don't have any children. I would like to have children. But economically, this country is so fucking difficult that, and also, I would economically, dating wise, there's a lot of interesting things going on. Anyway, let's stick to economics. The reality is, I would feel a bit concerned right now bringing a kid into this world because of how fucking expensive it is just to take care of myself and my dog. Genuinely. That's a real, it's a real thing I think anybody has to consider, but it's a real fear that with how things are, how the fuck am I supposed to provide for another human being without sacrificing my entire quality of life? And obviously that's a decision that every parent, I think, has to make in some way, shape, or form. But it's not fucking 1960, right? When you could have one person working and the other person being a full-time stay-at-home parent. Obviously, in that time period, it was mostly the mother. And they could still have the family car and the house and raise the family of kids in the suburbs on one salary. It's not like that anymore. For the average person, that's a fucking pipe dream. So yeah, people are going to reconsider going out and having a family or not doing it young. Or they're going to think to themselves, I deal with so much bullshit on a regular basis. I want to spend my money on enjoying this world, enjoying this life, reminding myself of what's good in this world, because there's no shortage of reminders of what's bad in this world. And this is I got into this because I saw a clip on TikTok, of course, so typical. It was Bill Maher, and I can't remember the dude he was talking to that was a guest on his show. I'm actually going to try to pull it up later, watch on demand. But it's when he does like the little panel thing. Bill Maher is like hit or miss for me, but I do enjoy the conversations. Anyway, this guy was basically talking about the fact that boomers are ruining this country. Like the older generation, and no offense if you fall into that. We're talking generally, obviously. Casting a wide net here. But the older generation is ruining this country because they're sticking to ideals and vantage points that are no longer relevant for my generation and younger. Again, the older generation lived in a time period where on one salary, you could have the white picket fence, the house in a respectable neighborhood, have the family car, the wife stays at home, takes care of the kids, takes care of the home, and you could do all of that on one salary. Take your one vacation a year. It's not like that anymore. We're being fucking gouged left and right. That's why I brought up the gasoline thing too. Bro, we live in a world where corporate greed is at an all-time high. They're nickel and diming us every which way they possibly can just to line their already full pockets. Everywhere we turn, we are overpaying for absolutely everything. Like, it's a fucking scary place to be in if you are in my age group or younger. I thank God almost every day that I just fucking got something in me and was like now or never when I bought my property towards the end of 2020. Because when I remember when I was starting to look at properties, they were getting snatched up really quickly. Had I have waited a month longer, I would still be a renter. And no shame in that. No shame if you're living at home, still trying to figure it out. If you're renting, whatever it might be. But for me, my goal was owning property. I probably wouldn't have been able to cross that off the list had I have waited even a month longer. Because shit has gotten so out of hand. People are overpaying for fucking rent now. Which is absolutely insane. They're actually saying it might be more expensive to rent than actually own a property for the first time ever. That's how bad it's gotten. So, of course, it's like, man, I'm fucking barely surviving here by myself. I'm now going to bring a kid into this world. And then at that point, it's like you're living on a fucking shoestring budget where you don't even get to enjoy life. You're just burning yourself out. You're working just to keep the fucking lights on. And it's not just you, but most likely it's you and your fucking significant other, both burning the candle at both ends just to maintain some semblance of the American dream and tradition. Meanwhile, everybody is trying to figure out how can they squeeze another dollar out of you. How much more can we charge for this before people stop paying for it? Because our CEO needs to make more millions each year. And guess what? His salary is going to come from price gouging us and underpaying their employees, the everyday person, the lower level employees of those companies. Yet, no shit, my generation younger are not rushing to raise families or having them at lesser of a rate. Because of what it means for our quality of life. So it's like, am I going to work for the next 18 years of my life, fucking, down to the bone, never having a break, burning myself out because we can't possibly afford a vacation and a family at the same time? Or am I just going to say, you know what? I'm going to love some kids from afar, my niece, nephew, cousins, whatever. And I'm just going to take advantage of all this life has to, all that this life has to offer and travel around with my partner. Because if I don't, I'm going to lose my fucking mind if all I do is work. That's the decision, basically, that's being made for us because of how crazy shit is. I'm a single person. I can't go to the fucking supermarket without dropping almost $200 every single week. And I promise you, I'm not buying fucking filet mignon and all this shit. I'm legitimately buying groceries enough for the week for one person and a large 80-something pound big baby of a dog to survive. That's it. And for me, it's almost $200. Imagine if I had to pay then for my spouse, which I would hope we'd be chipping in. But imagine I pay for a spouse and then a kid or two. What, $400 a week on groceries? And I'm going to Trader Joe's. Whole Foods Dramos died a long time ago. That's Trader Joe's. That's supposed to be like some good pricing, fair pricing. And I'm spending almost $200. Could I maybe do without the dulce de leche, ice cream? Absolutely. But is that a choice I want to make? I'm working my ass off. If I want to have a little sweet treat at the end of the night, I can't have that now? These are the decisions that my generation has to make. life, man. Fucking old people are ruining it. Y'all your lack of progression and critique, you're so lazy. It's like, bitch, no, we're not lazy. We're fucking tired of the bullshit. We're tired of the bullshit that you guys have created as a means of making yourselves wealthier and trying to teach us some fucking lesson that isn't a real thing. We get it. You walked 14 miles barefoot in the snow for some reason to school every morning. So I don't know how, but you somehow did. That somehow every single fucking person over the age of fucking 60 walked barefoot, or 50 even, walked barefoot in the snow every single morning, no matter where they lived. They all have the same fucking story, basically. Somehow all of you were walking 14 miles in barefoot in the snow. I'm sorry that is not my struggle. But I really don't think you finding asinine ways to burden me and my quality of life, I don't understand how that helps any of us. Go get a fucking therapist and fucking deal with your childhood trauma about how difficult your upbringing was, and stop trying to punish the rest of us. Period. That's it. That's all I got to say on that. Anyway. Fucking boomers, man. Get a fucking life. Like, that's what we're trying to do. We're legitimate. I just want to fucking have a house in a nice area. I want to fucking eat healthy food. I want to be able to have a spouse, couple kids, go to fucking Puerto Rico, when it makes sense for us. That's it. That's all I want. But you greedy bastards are just bleeding us all dry and then pretending like we're not where we want to be because we don't know the value of a hard day's work. Fuck out of here. Jesus. That's it. All right, I'm gonna fucking go off on a real tangent. Anyway, so that's R for the people in the back segment. Let's talk about some positivity because we need it. Hit the segment. We'll take another quick break, and then we'll be right back. All right, we have had, I don't know about y'all, maybe because I don't know what the fuck is happening. I'm wound the fuck up on these conversations. I'm so annoyed in so many fucking ways. I think also, to be honest with y'all, I've kind of taken a back seat to some of this is a positive segment, I promise. Me had that, yes. Positive stuff. We'll get to in a second. But I think I've taken a bit of a back seat for my own personal mental health to really being super invested in the news cycle. Obviously I'm maintaining from afar what's going on because I want to be informed and I have a duty to do that. But I'm not every single day I would watch the news for at least an hour and just really know what the fuck is going on. You know what I mean? Really not even just knowing, but be digging deep into it, right? Especially when I was doing my TV show where I did a lot of political stuff. It was I had to fucking be up on some shit, right? And I've taken a step back from that for my own quality of life because it gets dark, man. It's easy to get really fucking angry. And all those last couple of things I talked about, that's, I think, what's coming up. Because it's when I stop moving and I sit back and think about all the fuckery, I'm it's legitimately so fucking de-energizing to think about the lack of fucking morality and just simple fixes that are possible. But because of greed, we're okay with them not happening. And their justification for it, the previous generation, it's this is America. It's available for everybody. You too can become a greedy corporate monster making millions on the backs of the everyday person. The fuck? That shouldn't be the goal. Not for nothing. We as America, if you talk about rankings in quality of life, we are towards the bottom when it comes to developed countries. Regardless of fucking what our GDP is and the value of our dollar and all these other, our stocks and all these other shit. Quality of life, We're very much so in a troubled place. And it's because of that mentality. And they fucking try to sell us on this dream and fool us into all these things. It's America. It's available for everybody. Bro, I don't want to be some fucking finance bro dickhead that only cares about money and doesn't care about what he has to do to get it. And cares about money for the sake of having money and for the sake of saying he has money, for the sake of blowing it on stupid shit. That's not interesting to me. Yeah, I want to have a high quality of life. But I also want to see people around me thriving and not see unnecessary struggles. And not see people being taken advantage of. I don't know, man. Anyway, on to the Mi Gente segment. I might need to get back to like some sort of, I don't know, my politics shit because I just need to vent, obviously. Completely unrelated here. Positive stuff. This is an article from I think I also got this from NBC News. They actually have a Latino news section on there if you're interested. And actually, this is like a great, well, like far lengthier than what I'm going to get into. A really interesting article for anybody interested in this topic. I think if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably interested in this topic. Right? No Sabo Kids that don't speak Spanish fluently. They did a great one here. Obviously, link is giving the show notes. But they're saying that No Sabo Kids are pushing back on Spanish language shaming. On social media, teens and young adults will poke fun at No Sabo experiences. While most of the videos are playful and even hilarious, the growing trend of Latinos clapping back at the policy or the policing of Spanish, I should say, has opened up an age-old debate on what it means to be Hispanic or Latino in the U.S. Dr. David Hayes Batista, professor director at the UCLA Center for the Study of Latino Health and Culture, said he likes to remind people that being Latino is separable from Spanish and that being Latino isn't a monolith. Some may speak Spanish, some may speak indigenous dialects, and some may only know English. Putting this out there, Brenda, if you are listening, please remind me. We got to get Dr. David Hayes Batista on the podcast to talk about this. Putting it out there to remind myself and remind Brenda if she's listening. Hopefully she is. They say that there are about 63 million Latinos in the United States, and no two people are Latino in the same way. It's not language that makes you Latino. Preach it to the choir, Batista, Dr. Batista over here, right? The debate is relevant for a growing number of Americans. Currently, a quarter of U.S. children are Latino. A quarter of U.S. children are Latino. We fucking out here, baby. Let's go. In 2021, over 7 in 10 Latinos aged 5 and up spoke English proficiently, and an increase of 59% since 2000, according to the Pew Research Center, while there's been a decline in those who speak Spanish at home. As the No Sabo Kids say in their own words online, they still hold a connection to the Latino culture despite any language challenges, right? It's obviously something we talk about here. My Spanish has been getting better, by the way. My 98-year-old grandfather, who is Spanish-speaking, living in Puerto Rico, and his wife, who doesn't really speak any English, both complimenting your boy on his Spanish-speaking skills. So, we out here coming up in the world, all right? 2024 is my year to become fluent in Spanish. Putting it out there. My 98-year-old grandfather has co-signed this. Anyway, they say it's resulted in Latinos who have decided to learn the language on their own and in their own terms in a new and creative way, right? And they say they take a look at how previous generations of Americans were discouraged from speaking Spanish or not even allowed to. We're going to go down a fucking history lesson, by the way, because it's not all our faults, right? Some of it's our parents. My parents, I'm looking at y'all. But did you know that in California, they initially had a bilingual constitution? The region was formerly Mexican and Spanish. As Hispanics in the state legislature began to lose political power, so did their right to speak Spanish publicly. The U.S. has a history of forcing Americans to speak English. This was the case with Native American boarding schools. For example, Mexican-American children were put through similar violent language training. Alexandro Jose Gradilla, an associate professor of Chicano studies at California State University, Fullerton, said they were physically hit and beat for speaking Spanish at school. Teachers had the right to physically punish children. Brenda, if you're listening, we need to also get Alexandro Jose Gradilla, associate professor of Chicano studies at California State University, Fullerton, on the podcast. Throwing that out there. They were able to whoop your ass for not speaking English. But if you spoke some Spanish at this school, boom, you were getting hit with that stick. That's crazy. That was legal in our country. That was a real thing. A notable example took place in Marfa, Texas at the Blackwell School, which has since turned into a National Historic Site. Built as a segregated school for Mexican American and Mexican children in 1909, students were beaten with paddles and forced to speak only English on campus. In 1954, the school had a mock funeral ceremony and buried slips of paper with Spanish words written on them. The school closed in 1965. Think about this, though. This is like perspective I just want to put out there as well. And if you're watching the video version, I'm just doing outlandish things with my hands. I don't know why. I'm just fucking energized here. 1965 is when that school closed. People are still alive and well who grew up in that era. They're actually the ones causing havoc on my generation, as we've stated before. So a lot of people's arguments like, oh, that's old dead history. Who cares? It doesn't matter anymore. Bitch, it does, because these things still existed in the lifetime of people who are very much so out here thriving and living in today's day and age. That school didn't close until 1965. In 54, they had a mock funeral for fucking Spanish language, basically. What the fuck? So just remember these talking points next time, like one of your cousins, your primos, or your primas are trying to give you shit about your Spanish. You know? Fucking let them know some history out here. All right? Hold this episode up to their ear and let them listen to this shit. All right? Let this sizzle in their stupid critique of you and your lack of Spanish. The beauty is, though, if you do want to learn Spanish, I listen. I want to learn Spanish. It doesn't make me more Spanish. It's just something I want to do to be able to communicate more with my community. And the beautiful thing is there are resources out there. So there's actually this card game, and it was created by Carlos Torres and Jessica Rosales, both Mexican-American. They're a couple, and they have a card game called No Sabo. And it's an easy way for us to remember some tricky Spanish words and help monolingual Latinos reconnect with their childhood. I'm going to pick this game up. I have the link to the article, and I'll just put it in the show notes. I'll put the link to the card game in the show notes. I think I have it here. But I love this shit, man. We out here reclaiming our stuff, and we are not ashamed about it. We're going to create some fun-ass little card game, you know what I'm saying? And going to connect in the way that we see fit. And again, it's not all our fault. Historically, we have been shamed in many, many ways, as we just heard here. But I just love this, like, bro, this is authenticity on display. This is us being like, listen, this is me, baby. All right? Take it or leave it. It's okay. It's all right. I don't got to fit your standards. I'm out here. Still Latino. What's up? You know? That's what we're doing out here. That's what life as a gringo is. If you've been here since day one, I know we've evolved into a lot of different things. But at its core, this is a safe place where we can show up authentically, say fuck you to anybody that's got an issue with it, and also push ourselves to grow where we see fit. Love this. Love this conversation. Just good stuff. Great stuff out here. That was a positive way to kind of like turn this ship around a little bit, right? We needed that. I needed that, definitely. My heart needed that. Now, with that said, let's tie everything we talked about today in a neat little bow in a segment we call Conclusion Stew.
Time for conclusion stew.
All right, let's quickly recap always, because I went in. I don't want to fucking rile myself up all over again, right? I mean, the DACA recipient thing was beautiful. I know that was like at the beginning, and you know, I put that in like the heavier stories. I could have put that in the Mi Gente segment, actually, in retrospect. But love that DACA recipients are getting access to healthcare, especially like, and when you have these conversations, this is why I like to bring these types of things up, because I think it's all good for all of us to have a bit of working knowledge. These are people that are paying their taxes. They're paying their fair share. They should have access, you know, to these things. They're paying into it, right? Just like you and I. And it's only fair that they get access to these things and get the rewards of doing things the quote-unquote right way, right? The way that everybody's asking them to do. Why wouldn't they be rewarded for that, right? The other thing we talked about today, gas prices, like, and then the fact it's even a conversation, and like there's fear-mongering happening amongst these companies. Well, we'll just take our gasoline and go somewhere else. You fucking dickheads. You multi-millionaire dickheads. Just crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy we have to even have these conversations, man. Like, bro, you guys have made out like bandits. You had a good run. Stop the price gouging. It's all right. You're still going to be very rich. It's going to be okay. But no, it's not enough. It's never enough. It's never enough. They want even more money that they will never spend. They need it. They need that fifth house, man. They need it. Right? They got that unclaimed family in Colombia, right? The wife doesn't know about it. They got to pay heavily for that. They need it. They need to do that. I hate, oh my God, I hate these fucking capitalistic fucking dickheads. Anyway. And the millennials are having fewer kids. Yeah, because you old fucks ruined it for us. How about that? You guys and your fucking greed have ruined it. You've ruined this fucking country. And yeah. I don't want to be a pessimist. I sound like such a I'm exhausted, y'all. I'm fucking exhausted. I know I'm not alone in the exhaustion of like what the fuck is happening right now. What is happening? God, I need you to. I'm gonna put a prayer out here. God, just give me exceptional wealth, and I promise you, I will pass that shit down like it's nobody's business. I'm sorry for cursing. I will pass that down. I promise you. I promise you. Stop giving the guy from Exxon the raise. Let me get a couple bucks, and I promise you, I will make good on it. Help me help you. Please. Because we're making people wealthy who don't deserve to be wealthy. They just want it for the sake of being wealthy. Let's start making the good guys wealthy in this world. Let's support what they do. Man. And then on the positive side of things. No, Sabo Kids unite. We out here, man. We out here. We out here just reclaiming our Latinness. Fuck you and everything you think if you got a problem with it. And we're going to buy some card games to learn some more Spanish. I actually have a children's book of like Taino Indian, which is the natives of Puerto Rico. Taino Indian like symbols and language stuff that I flip through as well. Just to like, I want to educate myself on all this stuff. I think it's a beautiful thing. Love my culture, love my history. My Spanish is also up, baby. We up this year. Little by little, we getting there. Watch, soon I'm going to do a whole fucking episode in Spanish. How about that? Maybe that's a goal. I can't promise that this year. Maybe I can. Should I challenge myself to that? One of the final episodes of this year is going to be in all Spanish. That's a challenge I'm setting for myself. We're going to do that. It's going to be fucking brutal, but we'll do it. We'll do it. That's a challenge. We out here together, all right? Me sounding god-awful for an hour-long Spanish language episode is going to free any of you who have any sort of complex about speaking your Spanish. All right? Let my embarrassment be your freedom, be your freeing moment. You come to Jesus moment. All right? Embrace who you are. Authenticity, baby. And that's it, man. That's it. I had too much fun recording this episode, I think. I needed this. Anyway, that's our Thursday Trends episode. Just Be Social Club. I want to see y'all there. DM me if you want to be a part of it. Friends and family, we'll open it up to you guys now. Brenda at mindofyounglord.com. Y'all want to have her send you the link, right? You want it a little more formal. That's cool as well. And that's it, man. Have an amazing weekend. Just be aware of these issues. Don't let them weigh you down too much. That's where I'm trying to ride that wave right now. That's what I'll leave you with. Have an amazing weekend. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.